Which is more important for Israel, Judaism or democracy?
Judaism. Democracy is a good value, and probably democracy. Judaism has a lot of elements of democracy in it, but Israel is not a democracy. Israel has some democratic values, but certainly not just Judaism as in Torah, but Jewish peoplehood trumps democracy. This is not a country that's meant to be equal for all. It's meant to be a nation state. It favors the national ethnic group called the Jewish people. It has to favor it. That's what a nation state does. Therefore, it's at odds with full democratic principles. That has to be subservient to democracy, has to be subservient to Jewish and Judaism. There's no doubt about that. Democracy is there's many beautiful aspects of democracy. I think Judaism incorporates many of them in its very essence. But if you ask, is Israel democratic or Jewish? It certainly has to be Jewish first, and then have democratic principles that help govern it. But that's democracy is not God. Moreover, democracy by its very root is a Greek word. This is not a Greek country. This is a Jewish country.
Should Israel treat its Jewish and non-Jewish citizens the same?
What do you mean by the same?
However you would answer, you can qualify as you like.
It has to treat them with honor and dignity and give them upward mobility and opportunity. But to say that it has to give them full equality is not correct. You cannot give non Jews full equality to govern the affairs of the state in the same way, or else they will take it to a different.
What would that mean practically?
It means practically that I prefer to see that non Jews would have residency in this land, or some kind of limited voting, means that they could vote, but they would only have, let's say there's 120 Knesset members, they would have 3. Constitutionally limited. They would have some representation, but they cannot govern and decide if the army is going to be kosher or not kosher. And certainly they cannot be jihadist and be in our Knesset. I mean, there's an absurdity. There's an absurdity. No democracy in the world has haters of the country within their Knesset, yet we have, because we're, more democratic than the Pope, or I don't know what, we're more Catholic than the Pope, that we allow jihadists to be inside of our Knesset. So I say again, it's not just a rational way of thinking, it's also a Torah way of thinking. The Torah tells you, yes, there is going to be ger toshav, and
Ger toshav being the biblical
ger toshav
category
is
of.
literally translated as resident alien. That's an American. I was, when I lived in America, at some point I was a resident alien. I became a citizen. But that's America. America's a full democracy for anybody that lives there.
Would critics be incorrect in saying that you want non-Jews in Israel to be second-class citizens?
I don't want them to be citizens. I want them to be residents. And it's the word second-class citizen is a purposefully derogatory phrase. It's purposefully negative to try to show you as being, but as being, not caring about other humans and not caring about equality. But the fact is, the Jewish people, this is a reservation. This is an Indian reservation. It's a small enclave in the Middle East, surrounded by Arabs who have no concept of equality whatsoever. We don't have equality in any of their lands, and therefore we're like a small little place that tries to protect itself. Like regular Americans don't have the same rights inside an Indian reservation, right? Because that place is meant to protect them from that outside influence. And so is Israel. It's a nation state. It's not designed to give equality for all. On the other hand, the Torah is like, yes, of course you're a nation state. You're not meant to give equality to all. But then there's this category of people called resident alien, ger toshav, who want to live amongst you. Give them every right and every opportunity. Not every right, every opportunity. And give them decencies and rights and obligations. We never talk about obligations. We're always talking about what we're supposed to give the Arabs. Where's their damn obligations? To serve in the army, to serve this country, and to not be jihadists. Where's the obligations? We barely ever talk about that. We have them running amok around here. The Negev is full of protection rackets. Every Jewish business pays protection money to a Bedouin tribe. Everyone. I've literally asked them myself, businesses, I'm like, do you pay protection money? They're like, yeah, we pay 5,000 shekel a month so they don't burn down this place. So we've allowed the majority of this region to run amok inside our minority country. So yeah, I don't believe that Israel is meant to be a country of equality. It's meant to be a country of decencies and opportunities and ger toshav. Yes, you love our country. You will have great opportunities to live, to build a beautiful house, to have great medicine, to have your kids go to great schools. But don't you dare be jihadist or anti-Israel. And yeah, respect our laws. And that, by the way, what I'm saying now, the issue of equality, that is an issue that's completely Western. It's a Western concept. It's not a Middle Eastern concept. No Arab
So
around here
so so
thinks about equality.
so not to be provocative, but
You can be provocative. It's your show.
I try not to be
It's
provocative.
your show. Also, not be saying not to be provocative is just to be provocative
It's
with
it's
a
it's
proviso.
a it's a preface that probably the question may come off that way, but that's not my intention or desire.
Go ahead,
But
Shirley.
what you seem to be describing is what many critics of Israel say when they say that Israel is an apartheid state, and that the vocal large majority of, let's say, vast majority of pro-Israel voices say that's not true. Israel's a democracy, equal rights, it's a Jewish and democratic state. But you seem to not be using the A word, if we may, but essentially saying that you want a nice apartheid, that where there is two different systems for Jews and non-Jews, and that doesn't necessarily mean that non-Jews won't have nice houses or get certain privileges and have obligations, and however you want to frame that. But it does seem to be leaning into that. Is that a characterization that you think is correct or incorrect, and if so, why?
I think that my colleagues in the Hasbara world, they fall into traps too easily. They think that the way that you deal with criticism is by being like, no, 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 we're nothing like you're describing. Instead of being like, actually, let's look into what you're saying and make it clear what we're actually offering. And
So you're not saying no.
I'm not saying no, but I'm also saying, first thing is, what you're saying is hyper Western. It makes it look like there's only two things in this world: radical equality or apartheid. But that's just not true. You go around the world and you see there are many nation states that favor their national peoples. Okay, around here, every country is a nation state. They give privileges to their people as opposed to other minorities. Go to the UAE, go to Saudi Arabia, and then what does the Hasbara people say? They say, oh, but we're not Saudi Arabia. Why not? Calm down. I don't mind being a Middle Eastern people. I don't mind being a Middle Eastern country with certain democratic principles. But it's right. I'm not here to give away the farm. I'm not here to give total equality to the Arabs that are the vast majority of this region. How many Arabs are there in this region? 400 million. How many Jews are there? 7 million. So we have a little enclave to defend ourselves. To give them total equality would mean that they would wash us out. And if you read the League of Nations mandate that was given to the British, called the Mandate for Palestine, i.e., a mandate for a Jewish Palestine, it's clear that they want us not to take away the local people's civil rights and religious rights, but nobody's going to grant them total political rights. You can't grant the minority inside of you that's the majority outside of you total equality and political rights. It's just absurd. It's stupidity. And my friends in the Hasbara, they get nervous about the questions that you ask. And then they start saying stupid things like, oh, yeah, we're willing to give total equality. That's stupid. It's stupid. It undermines the premise.
Meaning essentially a more forward way of saying what you're saying is that
I
Israel can be apartheid, but apartheid isn't always bad.
I am not using that. That is a
Meaning,
word.
I agree.
Apartheid was white people that came, Europeans that came into Africa, took over a chunk of land, and then made the group of people
So you might say that Israel wants a
It's
system
not
in which
an apartheid.
I'm saying so Israel wants
It's
a system
called
in which
Ger
Jewish.
Toshaf. No, but see, you've used
Well,
that
I'm
word
trying
now.
to I'm trying to recharacterize
Surely,
what you're
you've
saying.
used
Yes.
that word about 10 times now. But I refuse to use that word because that word is a ma'us. What's the word I'm looking for in English? It's
Disgusting.
it's a horrific word of subjugation. I'm not talking about subjugation.
So we can take away the label. I mean, I'm trying to.
The label is very important because the label is used as a cudgel by the enemies of Israel to try to paint it as something bad. There are many nation states in this world. There are many states that favor their ethnic group as opposed to other groups. Look at do you think the Kurds that are hated by the Iranians, the Turks, and the Syrians should give equality to all these people inside of autonomous Kurdistan in northern Iraq? Of course not, because they're trying to protect themselves. We are a persecuted people. We're the ones that need protection. Why are we talking about rights for them? What about rights for us? Do we have any rights in their countries? No. No, we have no rights. We barely have rights to be there. It's still illegal. You know what I mean? It's like barely rights for us to fly over their countries. So what are we talking about here? That we want to protect our peoplehood and we want to give people decencies, but not to let them take the country over. It's reasonable. It's reasonable. And if Americans would know a little bit more about comparative democracy and how other countries do it, they would calm down. Americans all think that there's only one way, which is the American way. America is an amazing and special country. It's not like that all over the world. It's far from that. Far from that, you know? And by the way, even in great United States, do Puerto Ricans have a right to vote for president of the United States? No, because they're a territory. Do they have a right to vote for congressmen and senators? Well, kind of, but they're non-voting congressmen and senators. So basically, and there are 2 million of them, Puerto Ricans. And so people say to me, well, it's different. I just say, look, even the United States has an alternative system for whenever they need, when it's comfortable for them. So let's calm down and not use labels that are there created by our enemies for us to say stupid things and to let the enemy in through the back door. Let's kind of open our eyes and realize, what do we need to govern and keep this place safe? Which is the first priority of the Jewish state. And then afterwards, let's talk about, how we incorporate people more. But the Torah says to us, there is a way, but it is limited.